It's June, which means that the perfect time for a planner mid-year reset. So if that planner feels a little bit off or it's just not hitting the way that it used to, then this video is going to be for you. I'm going to walk you through my 5 steps on how to do a mid-year reset without making you feel overwhelmed and just ready to pull your hair out. So if that sounds good, why don't we just dive right in? And of course, if we've never met and this is the first time that we're meeting, hello, how are you? My name is Meshi and I'm the person behind the line plans. We chat a couple of times a week here on this channel talking about anything and everything, minimalist planning, journaling, all the things. So if you love planners and stationery and you want to kind of use them with intention, consider subscribing if you haven't had a chance to just yet. So today we're kind of looking at the 5 ways that we can kind of do a quick little reset. So let's start with step number 1. Step number 1 is obviously is going to be to kind of grab everything. So obviously the first thing that we're going to be addressing is grabbing all of your planners. This will feel messy. I know it will feel messy. But here, like right now, we're midway through 2025 and we really need to reset things so that we can actually progress forward in a way where we're either accelerating growth or we are just picking up momentum, one or the other. So grab all of your planners and take a look at anything that's kind of loose, that's standing in there that you're, and also take note of what are you using, what are you not using, what is something that like it's completely being underutilized or you just haven't updated it for a while. So this is sort of where we need to assess, it's sort of like damage control. This is where we need to assess the damage. For me personally, I know like in my Hobonichi weeks, I'm not gonna walk you through all of them, obviously, but within my Hobo weeks, I know that I'm not heavily using the perpetual calendar. So that's something that I would like to make changes to and perhaps figure out like a new way that I can kind of use this tracker because it's something that it's so easily accessible. And this book actually happens to be with me all the time. So the other thing that I would love to kind of make changes to is how I'm using the monthly. I don't have a clear direction for it, hence why it's not being filled out right now. And I don't necessarily want to overload this with a ton of decoration, but it would be nice if it had like a clear like focus or like a clear like job of what we're using this for. Whether that's for finances, although I don't see myself using this for finances, I need to kind of sit with this a little bit and figure this out. And this is sort of where step 2 comes in. Now, I will say though, some of your planners will be a little bit easier than others. Like here for me to kind of just reset the traveler's notebook. I already changed the little notebook in here because I filled up my previous one. So this one is ready to go. And then we're pretty much going to be filled up on the week's layout because I think we have like maybe a couple more pages left. So here to reset this, it's really effortless because we're going to take out the old one, put in the new one. So that's kind of what I mean by doing a quick little reset to see what's happening. But this also allows me to not only review like what was working, but also it allows me to kind of see like as you're interacting with it just at first glance, it will also kind of give me some feedback on potentially how I'm viewing things. We're not in reflection just yet, but just make a quick note. Moving into step 2. Step 2 is when we grab our journals. So you have all of your planners, you went through all of them, you kind of know what's going on in each of them. You grab at least one of your journals. And the reason why you're going to need one of your journals or a notebook, just something where you can kind of write your thoughts. I have this one, but honestly, I think I would actually like to use the take a note. I'm having fun in the take a note. Grab your journal. And in your journal, I'm going to leave on the screen a few journal prompts that you can use. But basically, we're going to take a moment to, and obviously grab a blank page. We're going to spend some time in reflection mode. I really want to just kind of write about what is working, what is not working, how do you want to feel when you're actually using your planners? So what are you looking for as far as your setup is concerned? Make note of anything and everything. It's sort of like a pros and cons list, but at the same time, I want you to get specific enough so that you can kind of figure out like on the planners that you're not utilizing as much, why are we not utilizing it? Because sometimes it's not necessarily that the planner isn't working for you, but the way that you're using it, it's not enticing you to use it quickly. So this is sort of when we're going to be writing about what is working, what is not working. And I kind of like that, like we can kind of make a column, and we're also going to look at what have you abandoned in the last little bit, and make a note of any tools that have helped you. So any tools, any accessories, anything like that that was really helping you stay consistent. And then any wins. We're going to be talking about wins because I really need you to kind of review your last 6 months, because there's a lot that has been working for you. And I mean, for me, within this journal, I can tell you right now, I'm not utilizing this note section nearly enough. I don't have a clear direction of which layout I prefer. So I checked in a couple of times in February, and then I checked in a couple of times in March, very minimally in April. May got even less. I think I checked in maybe one time in May, I think. Yeah, April got absolutely nothing. And then I checked in June. So clearly I'm not utilizing this for the daily journaling sessions, and with good reason. I know why I'm not utilizing this for what it was meant for, but this is sort of where I would have the opportunity to kind of write about it, make a note, and then also make a note of what actually drained your energy. Making a note of like really what's draining your energy. For me, I can tell you right now, the expectation that I should be checking in with this and then writing in every single page, that in a way feels really overwhelming to me. And it feels like I'm sort of failing this journal. Do you know what I mean? So that I absolutely hate. The other thing that's kind of draining my energy is, especially like within the traveler's notebooks, and I mean I've talked about this, and we will talk a little bit more extensively about this in a mid-year like check-in. But what kind of drains my energy sometimes is when I don't have the opportunity to fill out everything, and then I end up not using it. At least I'm not using it the way that I initially thought I would. You know what I mean? And I kind of feel guilty. And I know a lot of us feel guilty sometimes about these things. So I know that this was definitely going to be getting an overhaul just right off the bat. So that's like a little spoiler alert here. Anyway, this is sort of when you kind of make all the notes, and I would recommend something a little bit bigger of a notebook, because honestly, if you use like a tiny little notebook, it might not give you enough space to visually show you what's working, what's not working, and it will also kind of give you visually an idea of sort of like it will basically just put things into perspective. Essentially, that's what I mean. Like it will just put things into perspective of you're not, even though like the guilt might feel a lot heavier than it actually is, but sometimes you feel a lot worse about certain things when it's not that big of a deal, you know? So anyway, so you make a note of all of the things, and this is also where we're going to, I'm gonna say step 3 with sort of a caveat, we're gonna give ourselves time. So we're gonna give ourselves like a week of grace, and whether you do that in step 3 or step 4, I really don't care, it's totally up to you, but we're going to be looking, now we're gonna look and make a plan of how to reset the actual systems. So I already mentioned Traveler's Notebook. For me to reset this guy, actually, you know what? I'm going to show you the rings because that one is relatively easy to reset as well. So anything loose, we're just going to get it out. Anything that I know I'm not really utilizing, we're kind of just going to set it aside. So we're going to kind of remove everything. But like we're going to sort of see, okay, the system itself, how is that working? So I know I have a weekly here. First of all, I love this weekly. I'm not using it for what I initially thought I would, but then when it's filled out, this is the full filled out version of it. By the way, quick little side note, if you're finding this video helpful and useful, make sure that you subscribe to the channel in case you haven't had a chance to just yet. We talk a couple of times a week on this channel, and yeah, and I would love to have you in the community. All right, let's get back into the video. So when I look at this, I love the color coordination. So I would make a note of that, of what is actually working here, and then how I'm using it. And honestly, initially, I thought that this would be my main planner, but when I think of that, that actually feels overwhelming. So I know that this kind of needed to shift its purpose a little bit. So right now I have things filled out. I don't have enough things in here that are color coordinated so that my eyes visually can kind of get directed one way or the other. And I also know that I don't have enough of the finance inserts in here, and they're not filled out. So I already have a finance tab, and I did pull out a few of these inserts. So this one is a monthly overview. Then we have reoccurring payments. We have some bills, subscriptions, weekly expense log, where we can just kind of log. I'm not sure if I will use this part. And then I have a few of these actually. So this kind of almost feels like the Cash app that I have on my iPad, where you can kind of allocate each dollar. So I'm gonna give this a try and see how this goes. But I would also love to have at least a few inserts for investments and investment update, because I know that that will be important for me. I know that debt repayment insert will be important to me. So whether I end up kind of creating my own, or just doing like a downloadable, or I just make note of it somewhere, I know that that will probably be something that I want to kind of have in here. For now, I just kind of pulled out the inserts that I currently have on hand, but this is where we're kind of looking at like, okay, what do we need in here so that it becomes a more functional journal or functional planner? And then what's missing, if anything. So I mean, like I kind of mentioned, I already know what's missing here. We can also swap out this. I do have this as like a downloadable. So I think I really like this insert actually. It's obviously from last September, so it's not exactly relevant, but it's always a pain in the butt for me to print this and make it like fit perfectly. But it gives you essentially the date, the description, the type of category, which account, and then the amount. So this kind of helps me track of all of the expenses that I kind of have going on. I will probably utilize this as well a little bit. I can use this for finances 100%, or just like almost like use it like a loose paper where you have the topic and then you have the date and then any notes that I want to kind of make. So I really like this as well. And these will need to change. I like this still. I don't utilize this nearly enough, and I'm not sure if I will. So I would kind of swap this out so it will be a little bit more relevant right now. And then here I would probably add like some new decor. And then we make it towards the back. I do have some daily plans. I would like to move the daily plans back over to the weekly, just so that they kind of they're a little bit more cohesive together. And this can somewhat stay. I don't mind this. I like this folder. Again, it's not really being utilized for anything. And then this can go together with these two that I have. So I kind of like that. And I like that it's in the back so that it's easy access, and I can just flip it back here. So as you can tell, it doesn't have to take like forever, and it doesn't have to be like this big elongated process, but it's just kind of having like a walkthrough. Obviously this can get removed. A walkthrough of your entire system, see what's working, see what's missing, and also how do you want to use the system. I think that is the biggest thing, because when you're reflecting back in writing of what's working and what were your wins and how well are you doing in your current plans or in your current goals and achieving your current goals, and then you kind of break them down like financially, and relationships, with your mental health, like all of those things. You don't have to like do like long format writing. You can do this in like more bullet point version, but I think that it will give you a snapshot of where you are at in June, and then what you would like to achieve, and then what tools need to kind of realign for you to use them a bit more functionally. And that brings me to step number 4. Step number 4 is actually resetting your own mindset and your own expectations, expectations and your intentions. Now, when it comes to this, I know that especially if you have multiple systems on the go, then it feels like there's almost like an expectation that, well, you should have all of these goals and all of these priorities, and everything's a priority, and you should have, like all of this filled out with like a million tracker, and why don't we have 10 different trackers back here? And it's like, I love that journey for you, but I hate that journey for you, because babe, like I'm already overwhelmed when I'm listening to myself telling you about this. So we're not going to walk down that overwhelm lane today, okay? We're not doing that. I need you to just hone in on 1 to 3 main things, main areas that you would like to focus on. And I will preface this with saying, you know what, having a mental health goal is just as much of a goal as you know, like running a 10K. Like a fitness goal is a fitness goal, a mental health goal is a mental health goal. So I just need you to get really clear of what area of your life needs more focus and more attention. Where could you use a bit of ease? Where can you use a bit of softness? So just choose 1 to 3 areas that you really would like to focus on, and kind of make note of it somewhere, whether it's your main planner, or you kind of put that in all of your planners so that it's constantly reminding you. I have to say, when it comes to your journaling, and I think I mentioned this in one of my review videos when we were talking about the take a note on here, and I mentioned this before, on the side, so this is their weekly layout, but on the side, it will give you enough space where you can also write in the goals for the month. So if you're placing like this huge focus, let's say, on your health, and let's say that one of your goals is to, I don't know, lose weight or increase strength, or you're like upping how much weight you're using, this would be like a perfect like place for you to track it. Because yes, the goal is for you to lift, I don't know, like 100 pounds, right? Let's say that that's the goal that you have until the end of the year, but then you can kind of break that down into micro steps. And so this is kind of why we're recommending that you're not picking like 10 priorities or 10 goals, because it's so much harder to bite them down, and you only have so much time and so much energy and so much focus that you can kind of pour into, versus when you're kind of honing in on like those 2 or 3 areas that you're consistently putting effort in and attention to, you are going to see results. You just will. It's sort of like it's inevitable. So that brings me to step number 5. And step number 5 is basically, once you have all of your system figured out and things are like running smoothly, and you have like the new purpose that you put in and the new function, and you figured out how you wanted to use your monthly, what's happening with your weekly, whether that's a new layout. Here's my recommendation, especially if you have a planner where you have a bunch of weeks where you haven't actually filled it out. So go back to the weeks that stayed blank. Like, let's say that we're playing around with layout ideas. Go back to the week, and ideally, to be really fair, like if you look back at Hobonichi is a great example of this, because with Hobonichi, you start in like November. Most people don't actually move in November. Most people move in like in January, sometimes December. So you have like all of this space. So like I didn't move into this planner until January, which was like very last week of December, beginning of January. So that's where I moved in. So I have all of this blank space that all of these blank weeks that are kind of like, it's a wash. It doesn't matter. Use the space so that you can test out new layouts and see how it works for you. Check in a couple of times, and you can do that alongside your current week. Do the current week the way that it is, but also check in and see if this works for you, at least for a couple of weeks. Give yourself that grace period on decor. Give yourself grace period, and maybe you need a new ink, new type of pen. Maybe you need to use more color. Maybe you need to use less color. Maybe you need to use less decor. Maybe your spreads are too overwhelming. You're the only one that knows the answer to that. Maybe add a dashboard. I don't know. I think that there's 1,001 ways that you can really refresh a planner. Sometimes if it feels too busy and you're finding that you're not finding information, you're not really checking in with your planner regularly, it might be that it's too busy, and then we need to simplify it. And even within simplification, it doesn't mean that it looks bland and boring. It just means that it's more focused towards what you need it to do for you, which is like being informative. So if you're clear about its function, and its function is to be informative, then your decor has to be minimal. It just has to be minimal, because otherwise you're gonna have a hard time. Your eyes and your brain will have a hard time really seeking out the information of where you find it. But if you're finding that you're very, very minimalistic and everything is super functional and you're not checking in with it, it might be that it's too boring. and then you need to spruce it up a bit. Maybe add some color, maybe use some highlighters, maybe color code. You're the only one that kind of knows the answer to this. I can't tell you the answer to this because you're the only one that kind of looks at your own planner, and you're the only one that kind of sees where the loopholes are, which is where it's so important to do step 2, which is where you're kind of reflecting not only on how the last 6 months went, but also on how these systems are helping you. Because my point with doing a planner reset, it's not so much about you being good enough for the planner. It's more about figuring out how this can be a really useful tool so that you achieve your goals. Does that make sense? So it's sort of like you're not serving it, it's supposed to serve you. And being clear about how your schedule is, how much you have on the go, how much things you have to take care of and keep track of, how much time you can realistically allocate to be able to interact with each of your planners and journals. All of those things are within your hands, and being really honest with yourself will reduce the amount of time that you're going to spend on feeling guilty. So let go of feeling guilt. These are just books. It's not that big of a deal. This does not need to be as deep. However, I would much rather you kind of go through these exercises and figure out what's working and what's not working. And then that way you actually end off the year a little bit stronger, because then you're not going to, for one, it allows you to kind of learn about yourself a little bit more. And number 2, so not only will you learn a little bit more about yourself, of how you plan, how your brain works, how much time you can allocate, your time management skills, all the things, but then you will also kind of figure out like, okay, did you actually succeed in setting up a system that is supporting you, or did you set up an overzealous system that is really just kind of holding you back or slowing you down? So anyway, so I think that it's going to be a really good exercise for most of you, just to kind of see what's happening like within your systems, and are they actually supporting you. So add decor, take away decor, add new ink, maybe change up your pens, maybe adding some dashboard. All of those things are allowing you to kind of spruce things up a little bit. And then when you're all done, then give yourself like at least a couple of weeks to kind of test this new thing out and see if it's working for you. And if not, then keep adjusting. So you don't necessarily have to wait 6 months for you to kind of do a planner reset. You can reset things on a monthly basis, or make adjustments or make changes. But nevertheless, this is mid-year reset. It's not an overhaul. It doesn't need to be super deep, but it's just a gentle refresh, just so that we're kind of like doing a quick little touch point, see what's working, what's not working. Please celebrate your wins, by the way. Like if you've achieved a lot within the first 6 months of the year, please take some time, write about it, actually capture it, because nobody will celebrate you if you're not giving yourself credit. Please let me know in the comments what you're changing within your setup, or exactly what is staying the same. If you are keeping things the same because they're working, then I congratulate you for honing in on your own system. And if you like this video, please make sure that you hit the like button, you subscribe, do all the things, and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time that I release a new video. And feel free to share this with your friend or anyone who needs a gentle little reset. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and just keep planning, keep journaling, keep doing all the things, and I cannot wait to see you in my next one. Bye.